Hello and welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want. This is take two of the beginning of this episode, just so you guys know. I have a dog barking, but that's okay. This time, I'm just going to let her bark for you guys. I wanted to say thank you to everybody who's listening. I've been looking at my stats and I'm like, it's from all over the world, and it's very cool that you guys are listening. So thank you. I would love your comments. Please send me your comments. I would love it. Now, today I have with me Maria Iliffe-Wood. And Maria, I've heard of Maria quite a bit. She's in the stratosphere in my community. She shows up in my world, but we've never met. So this is the first time that we meet. Hi, Maria.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so much fun. I'm so happy that you're here because we kind of talked a little bit offline, everyone. And she's really like, dreaming, daring, and doing her life, living the life that she wants. And like, just to give you an idea, she is a coach. She is like, she's into leadership. And she also is an author. She's got, I think if my memory serves me right, like 10 plus books so far.
So, the six, 5 books of my own, and the other books I've published on behalf of other authors.
Okay. Okay, great. So still 5 books is already more than what I have. Uh, and she just started a publishing house, right? Publishing house is what we call it.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, it's very small. But I mean, publishing house is a very grand name for it. Yeah,
You're basically
small press.
helping people publish their books.
That's it. Yes.
Okay, great. So one of the things that you told me off camera was that you never thought you were going to be an author.
So, I never thought that I would start a publishing business.
Oh, okay.
So it because And I never thought about being an author until I started my first businesses. So I run 2 businesses. And when I started my first business, which is a leadership development business, when I had my business cards printed, the business card said coach, facilitator, and sometime author.
Hmm.
But I had no clue what the book was going to be about. And at the time, I was writing on a daily basis. I've been writing on a daily basis for a long time, just for my own purposes. When I began my training as a coach, part of what you had to do was do written reflections, which I hated, by the way. Like I never wanted to do the written reflections, but I kind of had to do them if I wanted to pass the course. And somewhere along the line, I really got to love writing on a daily basis. And so I would do it just for my own purposes. Then when I started my business, I started to write a bit of a diary of starting the business, of all the kinds of things that I was doing. But I got very bored with that very quickly because I thought maybe I would write a book about starting a business. But no, that wasn't on the cards at all. Um, and then I had an idea like about I was driving in the car when I heard the word invisible on the radio. I wasn't even paying attention to the radio, but I heard the word invisible and I thought, invisible coach, that sounds interesting. And so what I started doing was on a daily basis, when I was doing my written reflections of all my coaching practice, I was using the word invisible to reflect on my coaching and my coaching style. And from there, then I thought I might have an idea for a book here. So I started doing a very deep dive into my coaching practice. And the result of that was this book, which is my first book, which was published through a traditional publishing house.
For those listening on audio, the book is called Coaching Presence.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Sorry, I forgot.
yeah, it's okay.
I forgot that this is audio. Um, so yeah, and I wrote that book in 6 months, which when I look back now was an absolute miracle, and was all consuming. So I didn't know what I was going to write about. And then I had an idea, and then I just went for it. And I approached a publishing house. I found out what they needed in order to be able to put proposition. I researched publishers first and found the publisher that I thought would be the right publisher for my book. It fitted with what they did. Did a lot of research around that, found the publisher, found out what they needed. I had to write a proposal which probably was about 10 A4 pages long. Submitted it and got accepted. And now I realize that's almost unheard of. Like, so many authors that you hear about had so many rejections before they got a book deal. And often people would get accepted for a book deal, but the publisher would say, but we want you to do this, or we want you to do that, and they want to change it. So Kogan Page just accepted it immediately. And I think it's a testament to the work that I'd done that I got that deal.
So that was your first book?
That was my first book. So that was published in 2014. So I wrote it the year before. And then I thought that was it. It's me done as a writer. But I carried on writing. Like, I'm still writing was a big part of my day, because writing has got me through some of the toughest times in my life. And writing has also helped me to see and understand myself in ways, and life generally, in ways that I never would be able to see any other way. So writing has been a really big part of my learning, my development. So I carried on writing. Then I met my friend Jules Swales. Actually, we met on Healing the World with Dickon Bettinger. And her and I had a conversation over breakfast in Seattle one time about writing. Like, the two of us just really connected on the subject of writing. And she said to me, have you ever done any creative writing? Which I hadn't up till that point. So I went away, like, always one for a challenge. I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a go. So I wrote basically a children's story about a hare in a field. And I sent it to her, because she said, if you do write anything, send it to me. She said, send it through to me. So I sent it through to me, and she gave me some hints and tips, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then she started her writing school, and I was one of her first students, and I've been a student of hers ever since. And from there, 3 books arose just from writing on a daily basis and writing for class.
Yeah.
So that,
sorry for interrupting you, but when we were talking offline, you kind of like told me one of the reasons you wanted to come on the show was because of the Dream It, Dare It, Do It aspect, name of the podcast. And so you mentioned that you started dreaming.
Yeah, I've always, like, when I started out in my career, I was a bank manager to start. I wasn't a bank manager to start off with. I worked in a bank to start off with. And I dreamed about where I wanted to be and the time frames, and I set out my whole career ladder with the bank. And I reached that. Like, I was a senior branch manager for within the timescale that I set. And then it was like, I'm not sure what I want to do now. I've reached this. What do I want to do? And so I left and went to another organization. But then when I started my business, I needed people say you need a business plan. My business plan was a picture. I drew a picture, and the picture is of a tree with fruit on it and seeds going out everywhere and flowers growing around the bottom of it and that kind of thing. So that was my vision for my business. And then when the pandemic hit, all of that business it didn't close down, but it literally got shut down for several months, which is when I started writing. And it was then there's quite a story to how the publishing company came into fruition. I hadn't planned on starting a publishing business, but when the idea was mooted, I was like, ah, yes. And then I started, right, okay, so what does this look like? And I dream about what this looks like. And kind of what I do is I have a bit of a dream, and sometimes I put together like a mood board, but not really. Sometimes I've, over times I've put together things like that, but I kind of do it and then I put it away. And then when I come back to it later, it's like, oh my God, I've done most of that.
Love that. I love that. I do that with lists. I could see exactly what you're talking about. I do lists. I'm like, oh, what would I like? And then I write, I'd like this. And then I put the list away and then I come back to it later. And I'm like, holy cow, I did this. I did this. So
Yes,
you did the same thing, but with a
same.
picture.
Yes.
That's
But
very
and for a long time, I used to do New Year's resolutions, but my resolutions were always things that I was going to do, as opposed to like losing weight or giving up smoking or whatever it was at the time. It was always, and I would do the list at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year, I'd look back and go, most of the things that I'd put on that list, which I'd completely forgotten about, but I'd actually
yeah.
done. And writing a book was on one of those at one point. And then last year, so I started the publishing business, and then last year my husband had cancer, and it kind of makes you stop and think about
Reassess.
it.
Yeah.
And so as part of that, what happened is I signed up to a dream builder program, which is nothing to do with 3Ps, but it has a spiritual underpinning to it. And as part of that, I did a dream. I ended up with I'm not going to show it because it fills
Yeah.
the screen, but I ended up with a mind map, which is an image of how I would love my whole life to be in, say, 5 years time or so. And then so I do all that and get all the detail of it, and then I put it away. Like, I don't put it away, I kind of put it to one side, and I don't focus on, right, okay, what am I going to do? Like, what are all the next steps? What's the action plan? All that kind of thing. But what I do is because I have that vision in my mind, what I regularly do is in whatever I'm doing on a daily basis, is this taking me towards or away from that vision? And if it's taking me away from it, is there a reason why I need to do it? Because sometimes you just have to do some stuff, don't you? But if the answer's no, and it's not something I absolutely have to do, then I probably won't do it. But if the answer's yes, it's taking me towards that, I'm more motivated to go on and do it. So I think that's what I think about with dreaming is, like, I've always been good at kind of thinking about where I want to be, and not necessarily putting in a detailed plan, but getting there. And oftentimes, and the dare it bit comes in with, when I first started my first business, it was at the time of a recession, and people were saying to me, Is this a good idea, Maria? It's not a good time to be starting a business." Actually, it turns out it was a good time to be starting a business. And people used to say to me, "You're so brave." Like I was leaving a very well paid job with good security. I lived on my own. I had a mortgage to pay. Um, but it wasn't, but for me, it wasn't brave. It was just,
Life.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I think for me, like, you need bravery and you need courage if you're frightened,
Yeah.
and bravery and courage is a really good thing to get you through some time when you've got fear. But I didn't have any fear. It's just a feeling that this is absolutely the right thing to be doing right
Yeah.
now. And it was exactly the same with the publishing press. Like, I didn't plan to do it. And I already said this to you, but Jules, I was in my writing class with Jules, and certain things had happened, and Jules just said to the group, "Maria's starting her own publishing press." And I was like, oh, that hadn't I didn't know that, but in the same nanosecond, it was like, yeah. And
Yeah.
then I was all in, and I knew nothing about publishing.
Yeah.
When I published my first book, it was through a traditional publishing house. They did all the work on it. Like I had, apart from writing it, of course, like I did all the work writing it. But once the book was written, it was just handed it over to them, and they did everything. So I really didn't have a clue
Yeah.
what was involved. I'd started to get a clue because I'd started to publish. I decided to self-publish did I already say this about writing on? So when the pandemic hit, I started writing every day on social media, my reactions to what was going on, and ended up with basically a social history of the pandemic. I did that every day for in the end, I think I had 78 days worth of writing.
Mm.
And I think around about between 40 and 50, I thought, oh, this might be a book. And it certainly wasn't the kind of genre that the publisher would be interested in. So I decided to see what it would be like to self-publish it. And I made a lot of mistakes doing that. And I put a video out on social media, just funny. This is before I'd had this conversation with Jules about starting a publishing press, and just put this video out to say, look at all these funny things that happened while I was putting this out into the world. And then people started asking me for help. And at first I was like, why are you asking me? I don't know anything about publishing, but people go, we trust you, Maria. You're a good writer. I really value your opinion on the writing and this kind of thing. And I thought, right, okay, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so I've spent the last 4 years learning as much as I can. I've attended conferences, I've attended webinars, I've been on courses, really trying to find out everything that's involved in doing a professional job of publishing a book. So I've got a book coming out next month. This is called This One Life. It's a book of poems inspired by the Duino elegies by Maria Rainer Rilke. Rainer Maria, I always get his name mixed up. I think it's Rainer Maria Rilke. And
I do not know it, so I can't help
no,
you.
some people will know it, so I want to make sure I get it right. So these poems were inspired, and I wrote these. Wrote these while I was writing for class. I was studying the Duino elegies, and this book is very professional looking. Like if I compare this to the first one that I've self-published, which is the Daily Yarns, it's actually got a new cover now. I look at this and I can see that this is a self-published book. I look at this, and this is a very professionally published book. So there's been a lot of learning, so I'm all in. Once I'm in, I'm all in.
Yeah, we start seeing distinctions the more that we kind of bathe into a specific world. We start seeing, like when I look, like I do social media websites and I do newsletters and stuff like that. And when I receive newsletters and social media and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's like that's a DIY. That's
Yeah,
definitely a DIY.
yeah.
We start seeing it, but there's nothing wrong with the DIY. There's
No,
like that. The whole point is we learn. We learn from whatever we do. And I think that there's this thing that we also do as human beings, which is because of we don't want to learn, we want to have it perfect, or we don't want to look bad, or whatever it is that we're thinking in that moment, we stop ourselves from doing whatever we actually want to do. But if
yeah,
we would just do what we want to do, it would bring us to somewhere that we'd never even imagined, which is what I'm hearing in what you're saying.
yeah,
Essentially, you decided to self-publish. You think you did a crap job, right? You're like, made a mistake here, made a mistake there, this looked like crap, la 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 la. But 3 books later, and now you're like, I like. And then people are like, I love that you're helping people do that, because I think it's important. Some people will stop themselves, but if they can find somebody that they trust and just say, here, can you guide me through it? Because essentially you're co-creating something with them,
Yeah.
right? You're in a
Yeah.
co-creation process, and then they take it and then they run with it, but they've learned whatever they've learned
Yeah.
being around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I love that. I love that you're doing that. And it feels natural, like a natural outcome. Yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really cool that you're doing that. Now, when people come to you, they've already got their idea, they already have their book. So you're just essentially helping them go into the self-publish side of it, right?
So some of them have already written their book, but some of them haven't. Some of them have they've got an idea for a book, or they may have started the book. And so I have a small community of people who are working on book projects, and they're all at different stages. So because one of the things that people find really, really difficult, which is one thing I don't find difficult, is finding the time to write and having the motivation to write. And so what I find is that if people come on a regular basis to the community meetings, we meet twice a month. So once a month we meet to discuss where we're at with our projects and to kind of recommit to what we're going to do for the following month. And then once a month we get together to just write. Like, so we come onto Zoom and we say what we're going to do for this hour. This is what we're going to work on. And it might be writing a piece for the book, or it might be editing a piece, or, you know, whatever it is. And then we just spend that hour and we check in at the end. And it's really just designed to help people to keep on track with their projects. So some people, we've got not many, maybe 8 people in that community who, you know, come to these sessions in order to get their books written. And then I get people coming to me who have already written their book, and now they need to know what to do next. And most of the time there's an editing round that needs to be done. People often don't really understand what's involved in the editing process. You know, people will think about editing as it's correcting all the spelling mistakes, correcting all the punctuation, but there's an aspect of that you do right at the end. But then there's the crafting of the writing. You know, you never write the finished book in the first draft. Like, it's just for me, what it feels like is that when we write something, it's like writers will often say they feel like something's been downloaded. Something has come through them, and you hear lots of authors say that, fiction authors, lots of them say that. But it seems to me like, so you tap into what I would call creative genius, you know, and the book gets written. But it's like creative genius doesn't give you the finished product. You've got to, it's like it wants you to have a skin in the game. So, you know, you get the idea, you get the story. So I've just recently reviewed a short story for somebody who's got the real makings of a really nice short story, but it needs some work doing on it because it didn't come out in the order of the way that the book needs to be in to finish. And it really feels to me like life wants you to have some skin in the game. So it doesn't give us anything on a plate. We kind of have to do some work on it. So the next stage, once the first draft is written, is the book needs editing. Now, sometimes I'll do some of the editing for them. Sometimes I'll put them in touch with editors that I work with, depending on what the book is and, you know, what's right for the book. I'm not going to do it all myself if it's not right for the book. So there's people then in that stage where there's some work needed to be done to get the book ready to be published. And then there's the actual publishing. So I've got people who then come to me who have done all of that bit first. And then we're into the process of, right, okay, let's do all the stuff that we need to do in order to get the book out into the world.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of work involved. Like, I think what I do for every author, I set up a project plan, in an Excel spreadsheet. And there's anything between 80 and 120 lines on that Excel project. There's a lot of work involved in terms of getting the book into the world.
Yeah. In your experience, because first of all, you've written books, you've
Yeah.
co-created books, so you've kind of like touched a lot of aspects of the book.
Yeah.
Like, what is your take on someone that's writing a book in order to make money, and somebody that's writing a book in order to just share their knowledge? Like, there's like different come froms,
Yes, there is.
and like, because I'm thinking of the podcast, like when I first started the podcast, my mind was like, oh, how am I going to monetize it? And well, I'm not monetizing this at all. This is a labor of love for me.
Yeah.
I love having these conversations. I love sharing it. And it's like lasted 7 seasons. I've been doing it since 2021 now. And I love
Wow.
it. And I kind of like last year, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I should stop. And this year I was like, no, I had a new idea, and it's going great. So I'm guessing it's kind of like the same thing that occurs when it comes to books.
It's a really good point, Jasmine. So one of the first questions that I ask people when they come to publish a book is, why do they want to publish? Because you can put a book out into the world. I think there's a misconception that you put the book out, you get the book published, whether it's a traditional deal or whether you self-publish or whether you use somebody like me and partner publish, that once it's on Amazon, it'll sell itself. And the truth is, unless you work at getting it out into the world, it won't go anywhere. The vast majority of books published on Amazon, they reckon sell an average of 300 books. That's an average. So there are people who have sold way less than that. And there's people who have sold way more than that. Now, if you want to make money, the publishing of the book is the first step, not the last step. And you really do have to come up with a marketing plan. What are you going to do? If you really want to make money with books, in book sales, you really have to work hard at getting the books out into the world, marketing, there's so many different ways. For example, when I first published A Cage of Mind, I had it in my head that what I would do is I would set up some Amazon ads, and the Amazon ads would sell the book for me. Oh my God. So a year down the line, I am still trying to work out how to make good money. I mean, I'm not even talking about good money. How I
Make
make
money.
yeah, how do I make more than I spend by using Amazon ads? It's been a steep learning curve, and I'm still not there with it. Now, what I've learned from people who do make a lot of money from books is that one of the key things about making money from a lot of books is you have to write a lot of books. Like the people who make a lot of money from book sales write a lot of books, they published a lot of books, and they make it's that their business is not writing books, their business is selling books. They do everything that they can, they learn everything that they can, they invest in that to make money. Now, some people will use it. So when I wrote Coaching Presence, like I never put the books out into the world with a view to thinking I'm going to make a lot of money on the books. In fact, I remember somebody telling my husband once, who was a prolific writer for The Economist, that writing a book, he said writing a book is what did he call it? Minimum wage, less than minimum wage, because the amount of time that you spend writing your book and getting it out into the world, you don't get the return on it. But what he said, the return that he got was in the other work that he did as a result of having the book. And what I found with Coaching Presence is what it did for me was it helped me to get coaching clients. And, I would get invitations to talk at conferences and webinars and things like that. But most of the time, those things didn't happen because they came to me. Those things happened because I offered myself as part of my plan to getting the book out into the world. I offered to talk at conferences. I offered to talk at in webinars and
Yeah.
and all that kind of thing. So it's part of your marketing plan. So for A Caged Mind, I decided to focus on Amazon ads more than anything. I do other bits and pieces as well, but yeah. And
Yeah.
some people that I published for have just wanted to put their work out there,
Yeah.
not
I,
bothered about doing all the advertising and the marketing and all that kind of thing.
that's what I see for myself in my work as well. People come and they're like, they say, okay, I want a website. And I'm like, but why do you want a website? I've told people, you don't need a website right now.
Yeah,
Why are you looking for a website? It's kind of like people want to do something with their lives and then they look out in the world and they see what's being done and they go, okay, well, that's why they're successful. They got a website. No, not at all. I didn't
no,
have a website for ages. Now I have one and I just launched it in November. And what I was doing was helping people with their website. I really don't believe you need one.
yeah,
So it's kind of like, what is it that you want to do? And I can see that as well, how, you get the dream. The dream is, oh, I want to be a writer, published writer, right? And
yeah,
I can be honest, I've had that dream. I participated into, like there's this thing going on where right now they're putting a bunch of authors inside one book and then they're
yes,
right. Well, there are a lot out there that are just doing it for the money,
yeah,
obviously. And these people who are wanting to be a published author and being a best-selling author, they go buy into that. I was one of these people. And and it really did nothing for me.
yeah,
Like it did nothing for me. It was kind of like, but I have the experience now. I know that my come from was, oh, I'm gonna have a book and people are gonna look at me like, oh,
yeah,
my husband's got a book. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah.
yeah.
Ooh, ah doesn't work for me no more. It
It's
just doesn't
interesting
work.
because three of the books that I've published are anthologies.
Yes,
Okay. And so they are only people who have studied with Jules Swales.
yes, I know of those books.
Yes, and they're really good books actually.
Yeah,
Um, but the reason that we put those books out, because we actually, even any royalties, we don't get the royalties. The royalties all go to charity because it's the purpose of those books is not to make money. The reason that we do that with
yes,
Jules's students is because getting your writing out into the world the first time is a big deal, and it's quite a hurdle. And so the way that we do it is they submit to be part of the book, and the idea is that they will learn about the process. So we meet with them regularly, and I can't speak for other anthologies, whether they've done this, but so we will meet with the authors on a very regular basis, and we're involving them and we're telling them everything that's going on so that they understand the process of getting it out into the world. And then we help them to understand what's needed in terms of marketing the books. So we get them all involved. And because there's quite a few of them, it makes it that bit easier for them to learn. And some of those authors have now gone on to publish their own books. But that's the reason that we've done those anthologies, is because it's a learning process. And what I love about those is seeing how those writers flourish, because there is something about getting your writing out into the world, and I help them to celebrate that as well and see what it is that they've done. And it's just lovely to see them go from, oh my God, I'm not sure if I want to put my writing out into the world, to, oh my God, I'm so pleased with this book, I'm so proud of this book. They've got over a major hurdle in terms of getting a book out there, and then they're more easily able to go and do a book for themselves, but also aware of what's going to be involved if they, in the whole process.
That's fantastic. I love that because, you know, for me, it was kind of like, here, give me this amount of money and then send me your text. And, you know, thank God I had a girlfriend that edited my text, you know, but I don't talk about that book. I mean, I'm not, you know, I just don't
Oh,
anymore, you know, because it's kind of, it's not like, I'm not in a proud way about it. You know what I mean? So, but I love that what you're doing is, see, there's a different come from. There's a come from that,
yeah,
let me make a lot of money, you know, and then there's the come from, let me show you. I love that
make it,
the money's going to charity. And
yeah.
so that's really great. I love that you guys are doing that. Jules is coming, so we're probably going to be talking to her about that as well. Okay, so listen, I think we've busted our time already.
We probably have.
You said it in the beginning, like when we talked off camera, you're like, we're gonna talk forever. Uh, so before we leave, if anybody, like I heard you talk about that community, are you welcoming new writers that are thinking about that? Do you have,
Yes.
like, where can people find your information?
Well, funnily enough, I've just had a new website published, and
Okay,
I actually haven't announced the new website. It's actually live, and if you search, if you put, you know, www.iliffe-wood.co.uk, it will come up with the new website, and
okay.
the information is there. I haven't kind of put it out into the world to say that the website is live, because there's just a few tweaks that I want to make before I start.
Well, maybe by the time this episode publishes, because you know how I'm on backlog, maybe the
Yes,
site will
it will
be
it will be more than live. There'll be a
yeah.
couple more articles on there that I want to put out into the world. So so yeah, and the information about the community is on there.
Okay.
As I say, it's a very small community. It's really designed to help people keep motivated with their writing project. Um,
Okay. And the new book, the book of poem is coming out. What's the
so
name
this is,
again?
yeah. So the hardcover is actually available to pre-order. But the
Okay.
paperback, I'm still waiting for the proof copy, but that will be available to pre-order very soon. In fact, again, by the time this goes out, it'll probably be available to pre-order.
Okay.
So
So the book is
8th of
This
May.
One Life. This
This
One
One Life.
by Maria Iliffe-Wood.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'm going to put the links also in the descriptions, everyone who's listening and want to get to know more, a little bit more about Maria. And Maria, please come back. You know, if you want to come back on an episode and talk about something else, you're welcome. Book
Oh,
something
lovely.
and we'll chat about it. And yeah, so thank you again for coming. It was fun.
Thank you. It was fun.
Everybody else, I'm going to say dream it, dare it, do it, live the life you want. And I'll talk to you in the next episode. Have a good one.